This is Matthew Williams looking at Gwendolyn Brooks' poem, A Bronzeville Mother Loiters in Mississippi. Meanwhile, a Mississippi mother burns bacon. Like I said, this poem is from Gwendolyn Brooks and is out of her series The Bean Eaters, which was published in 1960. The section I'll be looking at starts here in the third stanza and ends about 23 lines later here with the line highlighted. And so where I pick up is pretty early into the poem, about three stanzas in, where Brooks is still characterizing the protagonist of this poem and the story that she tells. Um, this poem is about the wife of Roy Bryant, who was the man who killed Emmett Till, and it is his wife, really as she comes to terms with the murder of Till and her role in that. And we view this through her very unique perspective as a white Mississippi woman living in the 1950s, which was obviously a very racially charged time, especially in a Jim Crow state like Mississippi. But we also see it through her perspective as a mother, just like any other mother who was, raising children and goes through, the daily struggles and rewards and, the life of a mother. And so Brooks does an incredible job of blending these two kind of unique perspectives of the Mississippi Mother, which is mentioned in the title, and creates a very unique tone and theme, really through her use of different types of diction, a very stylistic and unique technique, as well as varied structure throughout the poem. And so the first thing that we're going to look at is diction. And so you can see several highlighted spots here. Brooks kind of creates this constant battle between these three different themes of diction, these three almost different related types of diction. Those being courtroom and law-oriented diction, diction that is reminiscent of motherhood, and diction that kind of alludes to almost a fairy tale and more whimsical side of things. And so in the yellow highlights, we see the law-oriented diction. Just a few examples out of my section I've chosen to analyze here. And you see words like undisputed, nullified, and vice. And all of those are very harsh words, very legalistic terms, terms that you would obviously could use in a courtroom, and very definitive terms. Vice strikes me here. It's somewhat unusual word, doesn't come up very much in conversation, but very accusational, and a harsh word. And so all those words are reminiscent, or at least to me, of a courtroom scenario, which makes sense because this poem is set shortly after or somewhere near Roy Bryant's court case, where he was, of course, acquitted from the murder of Emmett Till. And so you do have that diction. You see that diction, and that appears not only in this section but throughout the poem. In the green highlights, I've highlighted a few sections where I feel like this woman's motherhood certainly shines through, and that's evident through the diction. Words like "step on" can kind of bring out that more colloquial domestic side of this woman. Obviously, "step on" can is just another way of saying trash can, but almost humanizes her in that way, using that colloquialism. And then looking at Emmett Till, she calls him a blackish child. She recognizes that humanity within him and sees Till for what he is, as a young man, as a young boy, as a child. And then again in the next stanza right here, it's very interesting. You see kind of a conflict between boy and grown-ups, and how she considers Emmett Till to be a boy, and how she describes Roy Bryant and then his accomplice who killed Emmett Till as the grown-ups. And grown-ups again is much like the "step on" can, it's like a colloquialism, almost a euphemism really for adults. And it's an interesting, it's how you would describe adulthood to a young child. And so you see that diction that reminds the reader that she is a mother, that highlights that motherhood. And then you see this this kind of strange diction that is almost like reading a fairy tale. You have words in the blue like dark villain and the knights and the princesses and when his menace possessed undisputed breath. And so um, you see these words um, that show this side, that this rhetorical thinking of how she wishes things could be, and she's kind of playing this scenario through her mind, and in a very storytell or forgive me, a very fairy tale type way to telling herself a story, how it should have been. Um, and so I feel like Brooks uses all these very three different types of diction to build up this character, to build up this woman as a character, and really, it humanizes her. It builds, it not only builds the perspective of the woman, but it shows that she is the mother. It shows that she is the Mississippi mother, but she is the mother in that, it creates a humane side to a woman who would otherwise be demonized really for her role in Emmett Till's murder. So it gives her a voice, and the technique of the poem really falls in line with this idea of giving this woman a voice. Tonal shifts can be seen throughout the poem, as is very common in Brooks' multiple works. You see the ellipses in this section right here. The but there or something the matter. That's a shift kind of from this reality side of her domestic motherhood, of her maid mild type life, cooking bacon, setting out jars of preserves, getting ready for breakfast for her family. And then you see it shift into the kind of the fairy tale, what should have happened, what should have been. And then you see another shift in the next answer. The fun was disturbed. She takes on this motherhood role again. She talks about the dark villain. He becomes a blackish child. He becomes the boy that the mother side of her sees. And again, it continues down here, and even more so, she starts to see Till as a boy, really, with no confusion in this stanza. And so, again, this changing of the constant changing of perspectives, it certainly shows the kind of the cluttered mind of the character. You see, like I said, you see the hacking down the villain, then to the boy, and then you also see her bacon's burning, all of this happening at the same time, and you see which shows us the internal conflict that she has with herself. She's fighting with herself, and that carries throughout the poem. And so certainly this aspect continues to give her a voice. It humanizes her. It shows that she has conscience. She has perhaps regret, and she sees different aspects of what is going on. The structure continues to build on this. There is a lot of enjambment in this section throughout the poem, save a few examples where there are end-stopped lines, but most of the punctuation that we see in the poem comes in caesura, places like right here, and so on right here as well. And then the lines generally enjam elsewhere. And so again, that kind of continues on this idea of she's having run-on thoughts, very very fluid and continuous thoughts kind of running through her brain. She can't stop them, and she may stop in the middle of a thought and then continue and continue. And so that is what that enjambment kind of portrays, in my opinion, to the poem. The style of the poem and of the section especially is very, like I said, very quintessential of Brooks. Plenty of tonal shifts, which she likes to place throughout her works, as well as it alludes to her series, A Street in Bronzeville, simply through the title, and then through other various places. But most importantly, she's giving a voice to the everyday person, giving a voice to the voiceless. And that's something that Brooks feels very passionately about throughout her poetry. And so, which really builds up to the theme of the poem, which I believe is that those without a voice, those who, maybe aren't always able to say exactly what they want to say, um, often have the most to say. This woman will probably just be assumed that she wanted Till to die. She was all in on it. No second thoughts. She was glad to have him, but obviously, Gwendolyn Brooks here is taking a different perspective and is examining this woman, going through her mind, giving her that voice to show, she had internal conflict. She, what her life is like, what the other side of the story is like, and I think that's really the true genius in this poem.